So because we know with the NAR settlement, we are no longer allowed to put in buyer brokerage compensation into our MLSs. It's not being allowed at all. It has to be removed. It can't be in the remarks. It cannot be in the MLS. However, agents are still able to market if the seller is allowing for buyer brokerage compensation as a concession. So it can be marketed, it just cannot be in the MLS. So to that end, our Moxi websites are now allowing our agents to be able to add that to their listings so that it can market on their websites. It'll market on their individual agent websites and it'll market on the brokerage website as well. So in order to do that, because it cannot feed from the MLS anymore, because it's not in the MLS, we have to be able to put that into Moxi. As of today, our administrative staff is able to do this. Our agents are not. So if an agent would like to have this market on the websites, they do have to get it to their ASC or their RSC, and then they are able to put it into the system. So let's go ahead and show you guys how to do that because you're the ones that are going to be able to add that for our agents. And then once we add it, I'll show you where that shows up online. So of course, step one, we know we have to go ahead and go into My CV Desk or 21 Online or access.sir.com, depending on what brand you're with. And you need to find your Moxi Work Square. So again, I would like to reiterate that agents are not currently able to do this. Administrative staff have to. So if you are an administrative staff on the call and you go to log in to do this and you don't have the option, please reach out. We just have to make sure that we tweak your security status in Moxi, and your RSC, your onboarders, myself, we can all do that for you. So when you launch into Moxi, you want to make sure that you're in My Account. So if you launch into Engage or you're not quite sure where you're at, if you go ahead and click on your headshot in the upper right corner and click My Account, it's going to launch you into a screen that looks much like what mine looks like. And then over to the left where it says management tools, this is where you need to go. Now, again, if you're administrative staff and you don't have that option, please reach out today and we'll make sure that we get that for you. And then what you want to do is you have two options. You can go to office listings or you can go to search all listings. So if you are helping out a region, more than one office, and the listing that you're adding the buyer broker compensation to isn't in your office, you would want to go to search all listings. If it is just your individual office, you're only helping the agents physically that are in where you sit, you can go to office listings. So for example, we want to go to search all listings. And then you do have to have the MLS number. You cannot have it by address. So you have to pull up the MLS number. And then enter the number, either click enter or click the little magnifying glass there. And then the listing that you would like to add this compensation to will come up. Now, once you are in there, you want to click the pencil. That is your edit icon. And you notice it does run just a little bit slow, maybe a little bit slower since I'm streaming. And then right on the front page on property info, which is what the default view is, you can come right down here and it's going to allow you to put the commission type, whether it's a percent or a flat rate. And then the buyer brokerage compensation right here, you can put in that amount. Now, obviously, if it's a dollar amount, you put in the flat rate. It is only digits. You cannot put in the dollar sign here. It will flow over from that drop down here. And then you go ahead and put it on there and then you click save. Now that was already in there because I was testing this earlier, but that would be blank for you. Now, what I did notice this morning through testing is if you put a dollar amount or a percent in there, you cannot then leave it blank. If you want to go back and take it out, you have to put a 0. You can't leave it blank. It won't accept it in the system. So now if we go to view this listing, this is what it would look like on the website, whether they found it in a search, they had a direct link, whatever it might be. This is what our listings look like on our Moxi sites. When you scroll down, you'll see right here, this is where that information will go. Now, when I was originally testing it, I had 3% in there and I've updated it to 2.5 and it hasn't updated on the live site. So I actually have a ticket into Moxi to see what the timing is. Because when I originally put it in, it flowed over right away, but the update hasn't shown up yet. So I do need to find out what that kind of how that works mechanically for them on the backside and how long that would take if you do make an update. But this is where it will show up on the actual live listing. So again, only people with administrative rights today can do this. Agents can't do it themselves. So they'll have to email you or call you or text you or write you a note, however they want to get a hold of you. And then when you are in Moxi, again, over to the left under management tools, you want to click on search all listings. Again, you put in that MLS ID of the one that you want to add this to. Either hit enter or the magnifying glass. And then once it comes up, you click the pencil. And then right on that property info tab, you scroll to about mid-screen and you'll see right here, you have the option. It does default to percentage, but you can switch it to flat rate. And then you put in either that dollar amount or that percentage, and then you click save. So the process is fairly simple, but again, it is going to have to be a manual add because this information, again, is not coming over from the MLS anymore because it's not allowed to be in the MLS. So it is allowed to be marketed. It can go on flyers and such. Currently, the way that Moxi has this set up is they have this here for our websites, and they're working on the fix to get that to flow over to present and engage in case you're doing flyers or CMAs. That part's not quite done yet, but this part is active, live, available today in order to market any buyer brokerage compensation that your agents would like to have added. So I'll go ahead and pause and wait for any questions that might come up.
Carrie, I have a question.
Sure.
So does that mean that the seller is offering the buyer's agent the 2.5%?
This would be the seller concession in order to be able to compensate the buyer agent. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Lisa asked the question, do we need to enter for all existing active listings? And I'm going to go ahead and say no, because this is going to be based on what the agent's contractual agreement is with their seller. So I would very much wait for the direction from the agent. Now, if you and your manager talk with the agents in a sales meeting or whatnot, and they provide the information, you can go ahead and do that. And I appreciate wanting to be proactive, but because this is a contractual agreement with the seller, I would wait on agent direction on if that is being offered out and what that dollar or percent might look like. But great question. At this time, good question, Mike. The question was, does this also then populate coldwellbanker.com? And the answer as of today is no. This will not link over to the property on coldwellbanker.com. I haven't heard anything from the brand on any options they have for marketing this. So this right now is just the Moxi products. Good question. Cindy asked if the managers would have that same admin right. And I believe yes. If you are an office manager, you should have the same administrative rights that an office admin would. And you should be able to enter that percent as well. Like I mentioned before, if you're in there looking at it and trying it, and if you don't see it, just reach out and let me know, and we'll get some clarity from Moxi on that. But I do believe that, yes, you do. The question was to clarify, the only place we cannot put the information is in the MLS, but it can be on all advertising information otherwise. And as of today, and we all know that this is a very dynamic situation, we've already seen a lot of different changes come from the original information. But as of today, yes, the information for buyer brokerage compensation cannot be in the MLS. But as of right now, they are saying it can go on websites, flyers, riders, anything like that. It is being allowed as of today. If that changes, of course, we'll get that information out to you, but that is correct. No to the MLS. Yes, on all marketing materials.
Gary, can I interject for a second? Jason.
Yes, please do, Jason.
Hear me out?
Go ahead, Jason. Uh-oh, I think he may have froze.
Request. We had a request yesterday for a rider to be created for a sign that said buyer compensation offered. And the rider is absolutely okay. It's a form of advertising not connected to the MLS, but the words matter because we are not providing compensation to a buyer. We're providing the seller has authorized or agreed for us to provide or is willing for us to share compensation with a buyer's broker. So we need to be very clear about if you get some of those asks, and I spoke to some folks with marketing yesterday about that, the words do matter. So compensation is offering to a buyer's broker, but you're also going to hear words floating around called a concession. And that is not what we're talking about in terms of this field in Moxi. Concessions are still allowed in the MLS, and a concession is dollars provided by the seller direct to the buyer. And so you may see some concession offerings. We've always had concession offerings, but you may see some of those. But that is different than what we're talking about today when it comes to compensation to a buyer's broker and that being advertised in this field. So I just want to kind of, we're going to be learning together, but some of these kind of nuances are going to be very important as we move forward to avoid advertising something that was meant for one thing, but is something different.
Yes, thank you very much for that distinction. That's very important to add, and you are absolutely correct in all of that. The best thing for the staff, if you're being requested this by an agent, run it by your manager. Just make sure that it is the correct phrasing, because it is very important and it is two very different things. Like Jason mentioned, we've always had concessions. This is completely different from that. So again, if you're not sure, if an agent's asking you to do something and you're just like, I don't know, just make sure you reach out to your manager, your RVP, whoever it might be, and we'll get clarity on that. So thank you, Jason. I appreciate that insight. Pam asked if we need to let the agents know the tool exists. So very much like we've always done with our training, BlueSync for you guys on Thursdays, we'll get it out to Blue Matter Monday on Monday. So this will go out to them in email form, but we love communication and we would love for you to talk about it to your agents. We'd love for you to discuss it in your sales meetings. We do want to get the information out to them. So we're going to hit them hopefully from a few different angles, and we would love your assistance in doing that. So once Blue Matter comes out, feel free to print that out as well. Keep it in your offices, talk about it early and often, and we'll get that information out. So great question. Okay, so back to the manager question, Mike is able to see his office listings. So he, as an office manager, was able to update, but he's going to do a little test on that and get back to us. But again, anybody with office admin rights, office manager rights, regional admin rights, or of course, company admin rights should be able to do this for our agents. So thank you, Mike, for that insight. I appreciate that. I'll go ahead.
Do you know if the box is showing on all of the listings right now, or does that box just populate in the listing when you add that compensation in?
Great question. Let's check this other listing here, because I've not.
Like, is it going to look like it's blank and 0 for them all?
Yeah, let's check. Once this loads, I'll be able to answer that question.
Okay.
It's a great question. It's just taking a minute to come up here. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute, type them in the chat box. To Jason's point, we're all learning together. And it is a dynamic situation. So we all learn from each other's questions. So it's been great dialogue here so far. And that doesn't seem to want to load for me. So let me go about this a different way.
And Carrie, if I can repeat what I said on Tuesday again, especially for ASCs, because it can be frustrating with, us changing directions all the time, but expect more change. What we're saying today could be very well challenged and stopped tomorrow. So just be aware that some of these things are going to be fluid, and we may have some changes to some processes that we think are going to be here for the long haul, but very well may not be. So just be patient with us as we, again, navigate this together.
Yes, very good point. And Jessica, to answer your question, no, the box is not there. If a compensation hasn't been added, it does not exist. So it's not looking blank. So that was a great question. And particular on this one, obviously this hasn't been touched yet, and that box is just not there. So great question. All right, let me check the chat box. I don't see any other questions that have come up. So we'll get paused here just for one more moment. All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today. As always, if there's any comments, questions, or concerns after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. Look for this information to go to your agents on Blue Matter Monday on Monday. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.